Now, a few words about Soma. So I've said it before that Soma is the sort of biology, it's the chemistry of higher consciousness. Okay. And depending on the quality of Soma, that will relate to which higher state of consciousness. So there's different states of consciousness that are kind of milestones on the way to enlightenment. And you can read about these if you get the Yoga Vasishta. They in there you'll start to glean some impressions of what these different higher states of consciousness are. And maybe in a later lesson, when I'm not taking up all the time for this discussion, we can have that discussion and talk about those. But so the Soma, because there is a relationship between mind and body. So you're not going to live higher consciousness without something happening on the level of the nervous system and the whole chemistry of your body. Something's got to change, right, to support that higher consciousness. And Soma is the key to that. Now, on another level, so that's what Soma is on the physical level, very subtle, fine, some kind of chemistry. That's on the physical level. But on a kind of metaphysical level, so the body is, we are connected with everything, right? In some way, right? In fact, you could not exist except for the existence of everything. Like you don't have an existence in the abstract that is separate from the universe. You don't. Actually, if you tried to exist outside the universe, you would like, I don't know what would happen, but I don't think you could stay there very long. Like just it wouldn't work because actually it's something in Buddhism, they talk about this dependent arising, and it's a very important concept in Buddhism. But the point is that you exist connected and interconnected with the wholeness of life. Okay. So, and the way that we are connected, the ways that we are connected, get almost mysterious when it comes to your subjective experience of that connection. And in meditation, you can have some very amazing experiences of your interconnectedness with everything. Um, and on that level that I'm talking about here, Soma is experienced as existing, sort of omnipresent. It's not just a chemistry in the body, it's omnipresent. And it's actually the connection, it's the substance that connects consciousness with the physical universe. So, like the very subtlest level of the physical universe. So, consciousness, it's like people, the physicists say matter is energy, right? So, imagine if subjectively, with this human nervous system, you could perceive those layers of creation, where creation is existence is consciousness, and then subtle levels of energy, and then subatomic particles, and all these different layers. Well, the very subtlest transition between pure consciousness and the physical universe is Soma. And that Soma feeds the impulses of intelligence that structure everything, that structure the whole universe. And so, uh, in the in the when we sort of facilitate the flow of Soma by invoking it from a subtle level of consciousness, it's like we're manifesting Soma. That's what we're doing by our intention. We're actually manifesting Soma, and the brain or some subtle aspects of the body start to produce Soma. And on the one hand, it's a physical, something physical, very subtle chemistry. On the other hand, it's this metaphysical level, and it's feeding the devatas. The devatas are the impulses of creative intelligence. So you're nourishing the intelligence of the universe, both within and without. And by nourishing the intelligence of the universe, that intelligence will start to support you. It's like you feed it and it will start to feed you. If you have a pet, you have a dog. Recently, I had to take care of one of our dogs by myself because he needed surgery here on the island. And so, and I found that because I was taking care of him for all his needs, I was giving him his food, I was giving him his love, I was giving him walks, I was taking care of his needs. Then he started giving me so much more than he ever had before. He's so affectionate, so lovely. It was wonderful. And we really bonded. So actually, that's true of these impulses of creative intelligence that structure and govern the functioning of all of life. So you're nourishing the intelligence in life, and it's going to nourish you. So you're going to start to find fulfillment of desire. You're going to start to find, synchronicity happening a lot more because of that. So that's one aspect. Another aspect is it feeds the intelligence of all of your faculties. Like there's a certain intelligence in behind the ability to see. There's a certain intelligence behind the ability to smell, to behind the ability to think, to reason. And so all these fine levels of intelligence that are inherent in our lives, the different functions that we're able to perform, you're feeding those to optimize how you see, to optimize how you can hear. And what that does, it doesn't necessarily mean you won't need glasses because that's like a physical structure with the eyes, right? But what it does is it feeds the intelligence, the sort of, again, it's kind of, it borders on chemistry, but it's more than chemistry. But so it also gets into that metaphysical level. And so you can start to perceive through the through the different senses subtler levels of creation. So, an example of this is seeing auras. A finer example would be to see the golden celestial light of God everywhere. So, when you read the stories of different saints and mystic of any tradition, actually, you'll find this in various traditions, not just India, where they perceive God everywhere. It's an actual experience. It's not something they're just thinking about. They actually are perceiving like the personal God everywhere. And then when you perceive the self everywhere, it's an actual experience. So that state of unity consciousness where you think, experience, I am that, thou art that, all this is that, that is an experience that's actually based in your physiology and having strengthened the faculties, uh, the intelligence behind all of your faculties to be functioning at the most, optimal level. Then you perceive that unity. So that's what Soma is about. So getting back to the technique, now we have Soma and Soma. We go through the whole chakras. We're purifying all those chakras with Soma. And what ultimately this also, it it clears, clears the chakras and strengthens all those faculties and purifies the physiology and starts to produce this fine, kind of chemistry of higher consciousness so that we can experience higher consciousness directly. So that's the purpose of all these techniques. I don't even know why everybody meditates. I don't know why Diane meditates. What motivates you? What motivates Raj? I think I know what motivates Raj and motivates Moe, but and Kelly. I don't sure exactly, but I know for me, it's to, you could say enlightenment, but that's very abstract. You could say to realize God or to realize the self. That's getting a little more specific. But, you can say at the very least to live higher consciousness. And because I have found, and, frankly, the first glimpses of this that I had were way back in high school experimenting with psychedelics. But what I found was that higher consciousness spontaneously brings an experience of higher values of life. So if you want to experience divine love, can you experience divine love in ordinary consciousness? You can't. Divine love is a characteristic, it's an experience that's within the context of living higher consciousness. So, how can you experience God in your ordinary consciousness? It's not going to happen. You have to have higher consciousness. And in that context, the experience of God is natural. Okay. It's likewise the experience of the infinite self. So, developing all this is a sort of scientific approach to developing higher consciousness. And if you persevere, um, I realize, like, when I was first introduced to this, Maharshi, my teacher, said, 20 minutes twice a day for 5 to 8 years, and you'll have cosmic consciousness, which is like the first milestone of higher consciousness. And I would say, it takes a little more than that in the experience of most of the people who started DM. But in any case, it's still very possible. And many people have, realized higher consciousness by their daily meditations. So it's just that he was very encouraging. And so it does take more than that realistically, but hey, it's possible. So just keep going with your daily practice and you'll have that experience for sure. Soma is very powerful. There's a saying in the Vedic literature that only the Brahmana is qualified to perform the Soma sacrifice. Now, what does that mean? Brahmana, in other statements in the scriptures, it's clear that Brahmana, it does not refer to a caste. That's the most superficial level that some people might say, but it does not refer to that if you read the whole context. It refers to somebody who is in Brahman consciousness, an enlightened person. So, and the reason they say that is because Soma is it's very strengthening. It strengthens the intelligence. But until we're purified, there's also negative qualities of intelligence, you could say. So we want to be cautious about strengthening just any kind of intelligence. We want to make sure that we're getting on to some good level of purity, and we're strengthening the intelligence that will give us divine love, that will give us the positive qualities we're after. All these courses that I teach, they're all about really one thing, and that is nudging the mind and body uh, to start to experience and support and sustain higher consciousness. That's it. So it's a science. This is what the different tantric schools and the school of yoga tradition. Ultimately, these traditions are sort of a scientific approach, scientific in the sense that they're reproducible. If you do this, it'll have this effect. So it's reproducible and reliable. If we're patient, it will start to nudge our mind and body to actually live higher consciousness and to sustain that higher consciousness, through waking, dreaming, and sleeping. And so that we live, and enjoy a much higher level of just enjoyment. Our senses are fully developed and enlivened. Heart is fully enlivened. Intellect is fully enlivened. All the intuitive abilities that your nervous system and brain is capable of are fully enlivened, and so much more. But that's all. The basis is higher consciousness. So that's what this is all about.